Boys, we have some good news for today because apparently Blizzard have reworked their new player experience. I'm sure it is just fine and dandy and everyone is going to come back and play this game now. So many new players are gonna enjoy World of Warcraft, I'm sure of it.
Getting into WoW as a new
Trust
player
me.
is often miserable. Blizzard knows
Oh.
it. They know their watching potential lifelong subscribers
Wait.
never even get a chance. And this patch, patch 11.2.7, is Blizzard's most serious attempt to fix it ever. At the very least,
Most serious attempt mean they actually change stuff instead of just lying to you and gaslighting you.
that's what they're praying for. Their plan to solve this new player problem is effectively
They actually
an
did
assault
something.
on every front. Part 1 is the very, very beginning. Exile's Reach has been reworked to include major new characters. Part 2 is
You need to delete Exile Reach. That is the way you solve the new player experience. Just delete it, make it like classic WoW, where you just land at a corresponding location to your race that you chose, and all will be better. Don't put a tutorial island. I'm so against tutorial islands or, stuff that are like this in any video game whatsoever. It's just so isolated and detached from the real experience. You should never put this inside of a game. Players need to drop into a game and be immediately immersed in the world that they're currently in. This is just so weird for me that you put them on like this island so far away from everything and like here's all the stuff, here's all the basics. Let people figure things out. We're not lobotomites. We can do stuff on our own. Just treating your player base like they're 5-year-olds is never going to yield good results. I really don't understand their philosophy.
Dragonflight, but a very
It's so
different
odd to
version
me.
to the one that we played at launch. And part 3 is finally fixing the last 10 levels problem. But in all honesty, they've done it in a way that you'll just have to see to believe. I'll get to that soon.
Yeah, I
It's
bet
an
it's going to
ambitious
be the
plan,
most
but as we're
mediocre
all
thing
aware,
ever.
Blizzard and ambition don't always get along that well. And I'm not just talking about Project
He said
Titan,
it.
I'm talking about loads of things in WoW. And that means you may know what I'm going to say
He
next.
knows.
A lot has changed, and it's very messy. Now, we've tested this a few times in the public
What?
test realm, both in old builds and the build that just released and went live, the one marked as a release candidate. And for everything that went very right, that we want to cheer, well, something else went horribly wrong.
Wait,
But let's
oh
start
my
where the
god.
weirdness
It is
begins.
actually
And
buggy.
that is that
Oh, we're back, boys. We're in
the
it.
beginner's island of Exile's Reach was a great idea for the time, but it hasn't aged brilliantly.
Nope.
It came in Shadowlands, which wasn't exactly Blizzard's peak story era, and it tried to set up a sub
It is so funny that Blizzard right now is literally retconning everything from Shadowlands because the story was that bad. And they knew it at the time and they know it now and they're still trying to change things. It's so funny to me. I mean, if you knew the story sucked so much back then, why did you do it like that? It is so weird, and the characters, like every character was butchered, man. What they did to Sylvanas is probably the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. They just turned her into a Mary Sue character, and in the worst ways possible, too. She's not even enjoyable to watch anymore. She's just straight up trash.
plot about ogre necromancers
And don't let me start talking about the jailer.
and death magic.
You don't want to
That
go
just
that
didn't
road,
really
son.
go anywhere.
It doesn't
so
end well
Blizzard
for
have
you.
repurposed it. And the first change is an obvious one. Depending on your faction, either Jaina or Thrall will now lead the expedition. A big character that new players probably will recognize.
No.
And if you take a look around, you see
Oh, look, it's Thrall and Jaina. Oh, you love them. You saw that. Yeah, dude, we've seen them like millions of times in like 4 different world-ending events. Like, yeah, let's just stop it. Okay, let's just stop. Cease.
the boat is flanked by Caligos and Rathion, so right away you get to see characters with plenty of spectacle who you're going to hear a lot from later on. Now, Rathion is the one to rescue you early on in the experience, and the final boss of the tutorial dungeon is
Based?
rather different. Now, instead of all the necromancer stuff,
Man, don't you just wish the days where we were absolutely nobodies in just a really giant world and nobody really cared about us? I mean, don't you miss those days? They were the best ones. I mean, I love the fact that I was just a small guy in a huge world, and I had to band together with a bunch of hoodlums to just make something meaningful. That was the best part about World of Warcraft. Now I feel like I'm being handheld by all of these major plot characters that nobody really cares about anymore, and it just doesn't have the same impact. Like, everyone's cheering for you, everyone's telling you that you're the one who saved Azeroth. It is so weird. What is this 5-year-old story writing, man? What is this? Where is the grit? Where's the sweatiness? Man, we want those things back. We want some sacrifice. We want to have impact in our games. But we don't have that. Like, nothing interesting happens. It's always the same thing. It's the same goddamn script. We had that since Pandaria, man. I'm so tired of it. Like, I truly am.
They're using purple magic to enslave Caligos.
Wow.
Well, there's a little bit
we enslave a dragon for the millionth time. Cool. Great.
more that's changed. Instead of stopping off in your capital city,
Wow, it's the
Caligos now
Council of
flies you
Dragons
directly
again.
to the Dragon Isles to
They're so
start the
cool,
next
man.
adventure.
Wow.
That's a small change, but it's an important one. That's because dropping a new player in Orgrimmar for about 30 seconds before then teleporting them away was genuinely disorienting. So, while these are minor changes, they are smart changes. Even if that's mostly because Rathion's dialogue and delivery is actually some of WoW's best. But now that we've covered Exile's Reach, it's
sure of it.
time to get to the most important changes. Even the ones that Blizzard have obviously barely finished making. So, after the repurposed Exile's Reach, Caligos briefly introduces you to the Dragon Isles and he then sends you on your way. At level 10, it is of course time to go and do the Dragonflight campaign.
Dude, I'm so sorry I'm pausing constantly. I just can't look at this. It is so cringe. Why would any new player would understand what the hell is going on here? What in God's name you think goes through a new player mind where when he plays a game, he starts a game and this is what he sees? He doesn't understand a damn thing. You think he knows who's Jaina is, who's Rathian is, who like Caligos? No, he doesn't know any of them. Why do you make him stand in front of a random council which he do not care for, trying to make sense in a story that is so big his mind would not even be able to comprehend in weeks, months even? That is so off to me. I have absolutely no idea what Blizzard is doing at this point. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's like kind of the nature of the beast. So many expansions are piled up on top of each other, and maybe there's not a really consistent way of showing it to everyone. But that's where I think you should start looking at other games like Final Fantasy XIV and see for yourself, like, what did they do? Because FF14, you need to go through the entire plotline to reach the end. Now, you can claim that it is a bad thing, but in Final Fantasy XIV, unlike World of Warcraft, which, you know, it's not really a bad thing, you have all the classes on one character. So if you have one character, you can have all the classes on it, and you just can swap whenever you want. Now, you can claim it's a bad thing, whatever. I would agree with you. I generally do not like that. I like having different characters, and, you know, obviously, classes being tied to, like, the character that I created. But that's how it works there, and that's why you can experience the story, like, one time, and that's it. You don't build an ult. Now, World of Warcraft can do something similar. I don't mean in terms of class, but they can make it so you can experience the entire plot from start to finish, and maybe you get like a certain achievement, or maybe if you are new to the game, you have to do this for the first time, and later on ults, you can skip it. Like, they can do something like this. I don't think we should make players have to choose between one expansion and recommend them BFA because they would literally quit, and just make it so they experience the entire story, and even if it takes them hours, it's okay. Nobody needs to rush to the end game. This whole mentality of just finishing everything and hitting the end game, this is ARPG mentality. This is not MMORPG mentality. People need to understand that. You really want to soak yourself into the lore and immerse yourself, and that would actually make your ties and bonds with the game grow even stronger. So Blizzard needs to make sure they do anything they can possibly do to for new players to actually understand the lore, because this is important. This is not a laughing matter. This stuff actually matters. It is important. Or you can just nuke the entire plotline and say everything was an Azov nightmare. I would 100% accept that. Just give us Classic Plus, and that would be good. And like make it the new standard so everyone understands what's going on. Older players are like, yes, Classic Plus, thank God, BFA didn't happen, and definitely Shadowlands, they didn't exist. And new players will be like, oh nice, a new game. And we all have fun.
the whole thing, which on earlier PTR builds was quite the problem. On our first attempt, we almost made it through the Waking...
Bro, what is the CUI? Oh my god, what is the CUI? Oh, it looks so makeshifted. It looks like it was made with bubblegum and sticks. What is this? This is so disgusting.
Shores, when the game then forced us into a dragon riding tutorial. That included teaching us how to pick talents. Talents that, of course, are no longer in the game. But, well, we filed a bug report and tried again on a later build, and thankfully that campaign step is now gone. And with it being gone, we could roll a character and go through the rest of the campaign.
Okay, cool.
Which, in all honesty, is great. And very different, eventually. You see, for the first few hours, it's completely identical, and the important change doesn't come until you actually finish the campaign, which is honestly fine. Low-level WoW isn't the most engaging to play.
Imagine a new player having to walk through all of these random RP sessions. That's gotta be hell. That is gotta be the worst experience ever. And I think Blizzard still don't get it. That's the saddest part here.
But Dragonflight's quests are actually a great starting point. It also helps that leveling is fairly quick, so you get to pick your new talents, learn new abilities, and get all of that delicious dopamine. Here's where it actually changes,
Blizzard
though.
thinks this is immersive.
Once you hit the end at Thaldraszus, you'll be somewhere around level 40. As per usual, the game will tell you to go and kill Razageth to complete the story. Now, normally, that would be a problem for a new player in an old expansion. But that's a problem no longer. Blizzard have added in story mode. And that means the new players, for the first time in this game's history, will have an option to experience a raid boss as a part of their leveling up flow. And even better, Razageth is an absolute spectacle of a fight.
That's actually cool.
And you fight her alongside Khadgar and Kalecgos. It's amazing. Kalecgos even swaps into his dragon form to do AoE attacks.
Wow.
So clearly, it's not just that they activated the system and called it a day. No, they actually did some work. They put some care into this to make it a good experience. But there's something even more important, and it's this. As you guys may remember, Dragonflight's long...
But again, it's kind of weird starting out and just fighting a huge dragon. It is so weird. There's no, like, the disparity between what you're doing, which is, like, killing cockroaches, and then, like, jumping into killing a world-ending dragon or something. It's so weird. It just, the jump is too high. It doesn't make any sense. And then you're back to killing cockroaches. That's the funniest part. Yeah, it's weird. You don't build yourself up anymore. I mean, if we look at classic World of Warcraft, it was so good. You started out by killing, like, let's say, wolves, right? If you start as a human, you just kill wolves, and then you upgrade, I don't know, you kill gnolls. And, you know, you go from, like, there until you reach the late game where you start killing, like, fire creatures and all that stuff. And, like, dragons toward, like, the Burning Steppes, where you about to reach 60, which is the max level at the time. What used to be the max level, right? So there's a build-up. Stuff makes sense. Nowadays, I feel like we don't have that. We can kind of jumps between whatever Blizzard decide to put in the same spot. And that's pretty much it.
Story just ended there. Razageth goes down. The other incarnates are freed, and that's kind of that. Now, the last time we tried WoW as a new player, you never got to see that, or anything else. Alexstrasza told us that adventure mode existed, and we had a bunch of side quests to do until level 70. That was the only way to continue. It's not like that, because now it is very different. Once the story ends, it does a shocking and unexpected thing for a World of Warcraft story. It continues. You're immediately given a breadcrumb to go and do things that we know as patch content. In this case, the Blue Dragonflight storyline. And I don't need to tell you how good that...
And I'm sure all of the players understand what's going on. The new players are so invested into the lore and into the game, they just know everything. I'm sure of it.
Thing is, it is amazing.
No way they just click and skip.
Will go over a totally new player's head, but these still remain some of the most emotionally compelling
how many RP sessions are in the game?
World of Warcraft's entire history. And Blizzard are here showing them to new players. Blizzard are doing a shocking thing. They're putting their best foot forward. They're not known for doing that.
This is their best? Oh my god, we're in trouble.
Unfortunately, though, not all Dragonflight content is made equal. The Green Dragon quests come after, and you know what that means. It sends you off to Ardenweald to meet the Winter Queen.
You're being surrounded by multiple heroes that you usually should never interact with, and they are glazing you all the time and telling you that only you can save the world and you are practically God.
So the
While you're struggling to get gear, by the way.
can take Ysera's place in the Shadowed Lands. Also, Marithra can become the Dreamer, allowing us to save the seed of Emirdrasil. Absolutely none of that will mean anything to a new player. It is completely incomprehensible unless you've played Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands.
Exactly. And he, of course, said whatever I said previously, because if you try to get into the mind of a new player, you can immediately understand for yourself that they would have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Now, for a person like me who knows all the lore, or at least most of it, because, you know, I haven't played the newer expansions, because why the hell would I do that to myself? But if you know the lore like I am, then yeah, you can jump into the game and you can have a pretty nice grasp at what the hell is going on. That being said, a new player would have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on, and you just put them through hours of RP that is contributing nothing to them, and it just makes them quit the game even more. It doesn't help them get immersed into the game. It doesn't help them understand what's going on. So what's the point of it? You need to change everything, but Blizzard will never do it. Like I'm just rambling here, and I'm giving out solutions that I know will make the game better, but Blizzard will never implement any of it because they don't care. They truly don't. The game is only for the high-end gamers now. It's only for the whales, and it's already for the people who knows what's going on. It's not made for new players. They don't care about new player experience. Like they just don't. It's a fact.
Which would make sense given the creative direction of the game at the time. Thankfully, the next bit is sort of a step up. I know many of us hate the whole Mythian thing, but Abyssian, Sibelian, and Rathian's family drama did make Zaralek Cavern at least a bit of fun. Playing through it while leveling was fantastic. And with the added juice of those quests actually giving you XP and progression, it felt fantastic to do while leveling. With the exception for that little bit where the intro scenario had completely broken terrain and the screen bugged out. And the other bit that followed at the end where we weren't allowed into Sarkareth story mode. Maybe because we'd already made it to level 72 after just 11 hours. Though, to be fair, we had Warbound XP, and of course it was during the anniversary, so maybe new players won't have that problem and will be able to finish the entire campaign, including Sarkareth and, of course, the legendary villain, Farak the Ever-Blazing. Not to pull my tongue out of my cheek, what works is you do get the entire story of the expansion from beginning to end. You actually get the
oh my, man, that's hard to hear. I mean, you're gonna make new players experience the entire Dragonflight story? Oh my god. Why would you do that to them? God damn.
Spectacle as well. You can level up
Blizzard is
and see
wild.
Big, cool, larger-than-life World of Warcraft boss fights. Which, look, say what
make
you
them
know
experience
about the story,
Shadowlands? Oh
I would
god.
certainly say Razageth and Sarkareth were visually stunning fights. And that is something that we've basically never been able to do before. Though I should say, it's all...
Maybe it should have stayed that way. You thought about that? Maybe you should just let players start from scratch, from literally scraps, and that's it. Maybe just plop them into their Nessus and let them figure stuff out on their own.
Most everything.
I say
that because Forbidden Reach and the Infinite Dragon story are not included in this, so you don't actually end up knowing much about the Drakthir or the Darkheart, which, given how important the Darkheart is a little bit odd. That's not the only problem. This is only part...
You teach them half the story. Oh, without the important parts too. That is horrifying, man. I have nothing left but to cry or laugh. I'm really not sure what to do at this point.
2 of Blizzard's 3-part plan. And I've saved the best for last. Though by best, I certainly don't mean good. Now, before I get to part 3, there is something worth mentioning here. If you remember this video, if you remember the story of...
this was a good video.
Leveling did not go so well. And that was because the scaling curve made his life a living hell once he hit level 60. The good news is that now having more campaign quests basically fixes a bunch of the gearing issues for new players. You're continually getting new gear, and that did ensure that the whole Dragonflight leveling experience was buttery smooth. Almost the entire time, that is. And by that, I mean that almost the entire time, 2 wildfire bombs was enough to kill or almost kill enemies. Nothing proved too challenging for our survival hunter. But now we get to see what happens with part 3 of Blizzard's plan, because that's where things get real weird. So once you move on from Dragonflight, the whole struggle starts all over again.
Okay, post 70
You
struggle.
see, in Zalarek, scaling was fine, and killing enemies only took a few seconds, even when they started to
I love
scale above
Firek,
level
though.
70,
It's
which
cool.
is where we ran into problems last time. So that's good news. But in Dalaran, doing the new recap campaign, the spiders did end up being absolute nightmares. Their scaling seemed a bit funky. Thankfully, though, being level 72 seems to have helped a little bit because we were actually able to finish the scenario alone, unlike last time. Now, this is likely only a temporary issue because Midnight will have a stat squish, but Blizzard really needs to be careful with this insane gear scaling jump. It's frustrating, but as we progress, things get weirder still. So, the new thing. Blizzard have just replaced the War Within for leveling. Now, instead of doing the actual campaign from level 70 to 80, you do this new thing called the Recap. It's quite obviously Blizzard's lore walking system, but repurposed with a different name and a different narrator.
Nice.
Blizzard calls it a recap, but
Recycled
I would
garbage.
call it something else. Cliff Notes. Perhaps even Cliff Notes of Cliff Notes. So let me explain. In the War Within's launch campaign, there are 33 mandatory quests on the Isle of Dorne. In recap, there are only 13. The entire intro to Dornegal is gone, as is defending the theater, which does mean you miss Illyria losing her temper, which would be a fairly important thing given her character.
That is so
Basically,
odd.
everything except the bare minimum of Belgrim's story has been cut.
Wait, so you're gonna have player jumping into the second part of an expansion, a part of a trilogy. They're jumping to the second part without knowing the first? That is wild. That is actually wild. It's gonna create so much confusion, especially when they specifically said that they wanted to bring back the lore with this one. It is so off-putting. Man, this is okay, well, I mean, I guess Blizzard doesn't care. Like, why do I even get mad?
Going down into the ringing deep,
there is no
the full
point.
campaign has 38 quests. In recap, it has 6. Not 6 stages to the campaign. 6 quests. You skip over the kobolds and even things that seem important to the plot, like fighting off the speaker's forces. You basically get teleported to one fight and then go straight to the final scenario. Unfortunately, Hallowfall, their strongest zone, is much the same. You meet Faerun, you watch Beladar go dark, and then you literally teleport straight to the end.
Wow.
Not even the cave sequence, which is fairly high octane. And that means you miss and
World of Portalcraft, boys. We in it. Click the thing, teleport, kill something, teleport again. Fantastic game design, Blizzard. Well done. Well done. Very good. And now you see why I tell you that there is no hope for World of Warcraft anymore. There just isn't. The game is dead. And I'm not trying to be a doomer here. I'm just as sad as you are, because this is a game that I used to love dearly. And I hate the fact that I have to play a 20-year-old version of it instead of the new current one. Because it's so cringe to me just to see what Blizzard is doing with the game. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If you don't care about the lore anymore, just make a good game and drop the lore. I'm honestly down for that. Just make the game good. But, I mean, if you say that you want to bring the lore back and here's a trilogy and you want everyone to be on board, then you need to do something about it. Because it's so goddamn annoying seeing all of the heroes that we used to love being run down and butchered by some idiots, and then, oh, we have to band together, otherwise evil is gonna consume us type of story again. We don't want that. It's so annoying. It's ran its course, and the well went dry a long time ago. The well got deatomized, okay? There is no well anymore. It's just done. It's just a desert. So at this point, just for the love of God, stop doing it, Blizzard. Stop with the teleport. Stop with all of the phase thing. It is so annoying. And it is so bad and unhealthy for the game. Really, it needs to end somewhere. And I guess it will end when the game will eventually die and no one will play it other than, like, China, I guess, because it's really strong there, apparently. But who knows?
Big character moment, relighting the tower. And it's much the same for every part of the story. Everything that is not immediately related to Xal'atath or the Darkheart is gone. And within a grand total of 57 quests, about a zone and a half worth, you rocket through the leveling campaign, the max level campaign, 11.1 story, and 11.2 story. It makes for a thoroughly bizarre and disjointed experience.
Yeah.
In a way, it serves as a quick refresher, but it leaves out key character moments in order to accomplish that.
That's
And
insane.
that means it may be actively misleading. Now, Blizzard have tried to get around this, but they've done so in the strangest way, where they've replaced actually doing those things and seeing those big character moments with narrated lines from a narrator. And in doing that, they bring the entirety of the expansion down to about 90 minutes.
Yep.
It sounds rough, but also
Imagine trying to condense an entire expansion into like 2 minutes of narration. It's just not gonna work. But again, Blizzard will never go the Final Fantasy XIV route. There is no point talking about it even. It just said it's over. Like, it's over.
so clearly intended.
No
because
one will play the
It does
game.
have some surprising benefits. You may start wondering, how does this replace leveling if it's so fast? And the answer is easy. The quests give an utterly insane amount of XP. I think Blizzard finally understands something here. The last 10 levels have kind of always been a problem. When the expansion is new, it obviously makes complete sense. At the end of one, though, well, sure, people can relax and
Wait, what?
play.
How many levels did it gain?
At the end of one, though, well, sure,
Jesus, look at
people
experience
can
bar.
relax and play a few
What
worlds.
the hell?
But guys,
Yeah, how is this
so far in the
fun?
video, we've touched on a few weird, wacky things. We haven't even got to the really weird and wacky thing, which I'm
Oh
going
my
to go
God.
and do now. So,
No.
let's get into Blizzard being a bit sneaky and a bit weird. Of course, we all know that Blizzard
Regular day at
don't
work.
plan very far ahead with their stories.
Yep.
It even seems in the World Soul Saga that they're kind of laying the new track in front of the train.
They literally just made up titles and then they're like, oh shit, man, what we have to do here? Oh, damn. Okay, we call it Midnight, so let's do the exact same villain again and let's make sure that the elves are trying to fight against her. And that's it. Okay, that will hold. Okay, what will be the third one? Okay, let's think. Let's brainstorm. We killed the villain. Everyone is happy. Thrall and Jaina are making out. Yeah, dope. Ship it.
As the train
Straight
is
out.
going at speed. As an example in recap, they've added a line to the Azkahet scenario. This truly boggled my mind. Now, this is the scenario where Illyria shoots Xal'atath and causes a bit of a scene. They gave her new dialogue. So now, whenever Anduin says Dalaran wasn't Illyria's fault, this is what Illyria says back.
Blame yourself? Illyria, that wasn't your fault.
Based?
I could have stopped it all if I had given in to the void as I am fated to.
That's a new voice line, and I'm not joking here. Blizzard have retroactively foreshadowed Illyria's future character arc. And they've done
Interesting.
so with one of the most awful, hokey, wooden, stiff lines
That-
I think I've ever heard.
Blizzard stamp of approval. There you go.
It is honestly insane. Now, as far as we can tell, this is the only change that Recap made. The rest is intact. But it raises a question. Who is Recap for? On paper, it's for new players to get the War Within done quickly. They
Nope.
will get from level 70 to level 80 in a flash.
It's a cover-up, made-up story that is essentially for just for older players to open their alts and just skip through quickly. It is not made for new players. And if you think that this change is made for new players, you're insane and delusional. And you should get yourself checked out.
And be ready for midnight. But I think there's also a much better candidate. Lapsed players who want a refresher, because you can take an alt through it for a shitload of XP in near zero time.
Yep.
And technically you will remember all the core points of a story that you've already done.
Exactly.
It basically will serve as a 90-minute leveling burst to give you loads of context clues and reminders for a story you've already played. So
Yep.
now that we're all on the same page, let me ask you this. Why did Blizzard do it this way?
Because they're lazy and stupid. That's it. There is literally no other reason. There is nothing deeper than Blizzard other than pure greed. It just honestly that simple. And if you try to like go into it and like be deeper, no, they're gotta be working on something. No, there is nothing. They're just lazy and stupid. It's that it.
I mean, if
Like, that's
the
it.
World Soul Saga is the big thing they want to do, why not have you properly level through the War Within? Why still keep Dragonflight? It's
Because they hype expansions to sell them, and once they sell them, they don't give a shit. It's that simple.
I guess I can't help but wonder why they chose Dragonflight instead of War Within. I mean, for a new player, I do think that getting to see the whole expansion instead of just these hasty cliff notes would be way, way, way better.
Yep.
Especially because it's part one of the 3-part expansion thing that Blizzard are trying to sell them.
Who cares?
So
It's
This
not meant
thing
for new
with
players.
War Within Recap is just utterly baffling, and I do think it's
Yep.
not done as well as it really should have been. I think
Nice.
that doing the recap
Classic
in
Blizzard.
4 hours
At it again.
would still be blazingly fast. It would still cover all the content they would need to. But I think it would have done that in a way where people would actually understand the story.
Yep.
Blizzard, with this one, I think have really missed a trick.
You need to make
You know
it
the
fun
way
and interactive.
Sometimes, if it's really well edited, a long movie can feel shorter
Absolutely.
than a technically lower runtime movie that's just
Yep.
poorly edited, poorly written. I think this is
100%.
one of those situations.
And that's exactly what I've been talking about. You need to make the game fun, and people wouldn't mind investing their time into it, rather than making it short and insufferable, because people would just won't play it. So it's kind of the funny thing where if you make a game fun, it's okay if it's long. And I mean, oh, you have players complaining they can't reach the end game in time, they need to go back and to their jobs. Who cares? Then don't play the game. Then MMOs are not for you. You can't make an MMO for everyone. It is literally impossible. You need to aim, again, for the 70 to 80% of players in the middle. You can't go one way or the other. You can't make it too casual, and you can't make it like too hardcore like Blizzard is doing right now. It is always going to turn out bad for you. And it just sucks that Blizzard don't get it. After all of these years where they have catered to the 1%ers, they can tell that the game is dying. Or I guess they can, they just don't care. That's the weird part. Because you can bring in new players, old players are quitting, then what the hell are you going to do in a game in a few years? What is going to be left? Nobody's gonna come into the game, and old players are already leaving in masses, so you're only gonna stay with the whales that, granted, give you a lot of money. I will give you that. We've seen the Diablo Immortal stuff, right? But it's not gonna last. And I mean, yes, you're gonna cut on developers, you're gonna cut on more, cut more resources. The QA team clearly has gone away, but I mean, what else? You're gonna be left with nobody. So it's crazy. I think the only reason World of Warcraft still stands somehow is the fact that nobody had managed to topple it, because nobody's making a good MMO. Every single MMORPG that has surfaced in the past, 5 years even, has failed miserably. And recently New World has been shot down too. So, making a good MMO is difficult. But nobody's managing to even just bypass Blizzard, which is so weird for me. It is so weird. And some of you probably look at the screen like, Ashes of Creation, bro, Steven is gonna save us. Well, I wouldn't count on that, okay? As stuff is going right now, it doesn't look so good, Chief. But we're gonna cover that in a different video.
I think they've tried to be so brief that they've actually compromised how good the thing is. And in doing so, I think...
And just for you, for your information, I do really believe that if a good MMORPG will rise, World of Warcraft will die the next day. I believe it. Blizzard would not do a damn thing to try and make it into a competition. They would just give up and they put their resources into something else like Diablo 4 or any other game. They would shut down World of Warcraft. I am 100% sure of it. Or maybe there's a 1% chance they would make Classic Plus, but it will be garbage and no one will play it because the talent that they once had is long gone.
They've made it so that Bits of Midnight just won't hit as hard for a new player. That's unfortunate. But I will say that outside of a few progression-breaking bugs, overall,
go and click
these
the
updates
stuff,
are actually great. And mostly
What
because
is
of the
this?
future that they promise. Leveling through all of Dragonflight, including its patches, was an amazing experience. Actually,
I'm sure.
getting a whole expansion story presented in a linear, guiding way was a complete game changer. This is the thing that people praised about Final Fantasy XIV with its MSQ.
Yep.
And now we actually have that for World of Warcraft.
No, you have a very rundown version of that. You don't have that. Final Fantasy XIV shows you the exact story as it was meant to be told. Everything makes sense. It takes hours to complete. And, hours. It takes literally months. But it depends on how fast you read, I guess. But you can't even compare them. You cannot even compare them, brother. You also do all of the content, like the dungeons and stuff, which obviously is being neutered, so you can do it on your own with, just a few people. But still, very fun regardless.
If Blizzard were able to properly offer this for every expansion, it would turn World of Warcraft into a game you could wholeheartedly recommend to everyone. Maybe even for just the high fantasy role-playing game stories.
Absolutely, and that's what I've been saying. The game can be good even as a single-player experience. Even if you do not care about the endgame whatsoever, which to some of you World of Warcraft players will be like, oh my god, no, Ed. Like, no, some people only want to play for the story, believe it or not. And if you would make it a linear experience, just like the MSQ from Final Fantasy XIV, I think you're gonna have a lot of casual gamers just investing their money into the game just to play, have fun, and when they reach the end game, maybe they will not raid, but they will definitely collect transmogs and do events and all of that fun stuff. So you'll have new lifeblood surging into the game again. And that's the most important part, because right now the game is dying. It clearly is dying. It's losing more and more players each day. And before you're telling me Blizzard just released a report that shows some really great numbers, it's inflated with bots. Everyone knows that. Nobody who plays World of Warcraft is a real human anymore. So don't try to take me for a fool and gaslight me into thinking that actual human beings are playing this game. Because it's not the case. And you can tell that. Now, if you play the game, you also know this for yourself, right? But with all the bot farmers and stuff. But yeah, it's just so weird for me that Blizzard is not doing that. They can just put everything into a linear experience, just like the MSQ, and it was so good. It'll be so good, but they're too lazy to do that. I think it's too late. I think they're even missing some of the files, maybe even, because you have to just put effort into actually making each expansion good on its own, and then just connect them all in a straight line, and Blizzard would never have the time to do that. They would never... They don't have the manpower anymore. I think they just have 2 developers which are clueless about what to do. So it's going to be a very difficult task. It's something that they should have done years ago, and then it would make things easier. But since they let the problem stockpile, it's just now a huge pile of messes that they need to fix, and they rather just ignore that.
One last thing, though, but I bring it up because it's mostly funny. New players technically don't have to do any of this, because whenever you land in Exile's Reach, you can just click the player housing button and never go outside again, unless you need more decorations. So here's your fair warning. Get ready for legions of tutorial skippers showing up in Stormwind with no idea what to do.
Insane.
Now, if you want to get stuck into all the new content in this patch and avoid answering all those new player questions, then I've got good news. This video next will cover everything else that you can...
Okay, yeah, this seemed to be like the end of the video, I guess. Wow, truly great video, by the way, by Bill. I'm gonna leave a link in the description so you guys can watch it for yourself and give it a like and a sub if you haven't already. But to the point, yeah, the new story, the new player experience doesn't make any sense. Nobody's gonna play it other than older players that already know what's going on, unfortunately for them. But it's over. It's over for Blizzard. I said everything that I can. And I mean, what can you say? It is what it is, man. Blizzard is not going to change, and every single good change that they're implementing into the game just seems worse and worse each day. They are incapable of making a good game. It's just a fact. You can't ignore that. And it's so frustrating. I mean, if I were a Blizzard right now, I would literally nuke everything and make Classic Plus the new standard. Just make Classic Plus, and it will literally, just like I said before, we would take all the new players that have no idea what World of Warcraft is and put them at the same playing field as the older players who do not care about the story, but the entire story got nuked, so it doesn't matter. So we all have a fresh start, and I think that's what we need. Because you let too many problems get piled up, and now you can't fix all of them. It is impossible. So the best thing you can do is nuke everything to the ground and start fresh. But hey, maybe in the future.